Okay, so this is kind of new for me, but I'm going to do an off-the-cuff reaction to something, and I'll probably be doing more of this in future, just to help stop the right sort of claim the algorithms on YouTube, which they've been doing for some time now. So I'll be reacting to the incredible news that Trump and his team finally got something pulled off social media, and it only took them using literal Nazi propaganda to do so. So you've probably heard about the posting of various things from Team Trump and other Trump sources using the red triangle, which was used to mark political dissidents in Nazi Germany. Yay! So this is really playing into the whole being anti-Antifa just makes you fa. Like wow, it's just pretty. Of course, they've already scrambled for explanations like, oh, it's a symbol for Antifa use, which I've never actually seen them use, and that sort of nonsense. And of course, the super intellectually dishonest right-wing talking heads will have their own explanations. God knows what Shappy Boy and the others will come up with. Although he's not quite as fond of Trump as the others, so who knows. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to comment on the sheer ridiculousness of the situation and how just the sheer levels of dishonesty and maliciousness and mask-offedness that the right can get away with, but the smallest things will get the left like persecuted as extremists. And I do kind of mean persecuted now because they're using the same symbol that was used for political dissidents in Nazi Germany. So that is a really bad sign of things to come. And it's not as if the US is any stranger to things like COINTELPRO and other methods of sort of persecuting and rounding up people with left-wing or pro-black associated movements. So the other thing that people haven't been talking about quite as much is the fact that there was exactly 88 of these posts, 88 different posts. And if you look at most of them, there are 14 words in the first paragraph, or the first sentence rather. The first sentence, the first paragraph, most of them have 14 words, which you may recognize as being another piece of Nazi propaganda, this time neo-Nazi rather than old school 30s, 40s Nazi. So yeah, just keeping the old mixed with the new, I guess. It's very vaporwave of them. I don't know. It's really hard to unpack this insanity, but I do kind of want to say that I doubt Donald Trump himself suggested this. I don't think he's savvy enough to even know about the 1488 thing that well. He's sort of been briefed on it, but being half asleep through it. But what I do think has happened is that there is obviously a neo-Nazi presence, unsurprisingly, imagine my shock, on Team Trump, as it were. And nobody in the upper echelon seems particularly bothered about this and scrambled for an explanation instead of sort of calling in their own. I see people talk about how the left is always fighting and always like we have the whole problem with cancel culture and this sort of real disposability thing, but at least we can to some degree hold people accountable. And the right, which also has its own infighting increasingly, really has a hard time doing that. A lot of the time because people who need to be sort of reined in are actually just saying what the rest of them kind of want to say anyway. So you won't really see much self-crit, as it were, on that side. And like you do get the odd like Blair White apology in that, and then she doubles down again later. But it is pretty rare for there to be any reining in of problematic behavior on the right, which is problematic by their standards, and by their standards I mean the standards they claim are their standards as opposed to the ones that they sort of follow internally. And I have no doubt that most people on the right to some degree actually do dislike Nazis. They just don't dislike them to the degree where it's worse than like black people having more rights or trans people existing. So yeah, and a lot of the reasons for them disliking Nazis are pretty superficial. So this is sort of the big problem when people are taught, oh, America beat the Nazis, and it becomes a sort of jingoistic, nationalistic thing. And it's much less about what the Nazis actually did, even though obviously we tell people that too. But there is a big issue in terms of not explaining why things are bad. Like, and this is kind of where you get the whole reverse racism thing, although that's not as popular a term nowadays. But people going, oh, I bet if I said things about black people that you said about white people, and that's what's called a false equivalence. And that sort of thing happens a lot when people aren't actually taught about the sort of political or social contents of something, or the consequences of something. Contents and consequence, those go together nicely, where things are just sort of arbitrarily declared wrong or bad, and they're not really unpacked to the extent that we would do so on the left when we find something problematic or someone problematic. But of course we don't always do that either, or at least the right people. But yeah, especially on the right, there is like Like, the last few years of political discourse, and probably even beyond that, have very much been the meme in the thumbnail for this video. Oh, so anyone you don't like is automatically a Nazi. And, oh, it is such a wonderful deflection tactic from a group of people that talk about, like, thought-terminating buzzwords and things like that, like saying privilege or this and that. And they do the same thing, like, simply referencing the fact that they are being called a Nazi does not make them any less of a Nazi. And it's the same with TERFs and other groups who just like mirror comments back to them and go, oh, that's ridiculous. But it still is a thing. And the thing is that people usually have actual arguments attached to it. And ad hominem is usually when your argument is entirely based on an insult or piece of personal information. If someone calls you a Nazi and explains why you're a Nazi, that's something you actually have to respond to. Like, if they have an actual argument, you can't just use the fallacy and completely bloody well ignore it. It's so lazy. Like, this is totally the easy modal of debating. You didn't debunk anything. You didn't grow, you didn't improve. You took a shortcut and gained nothing. Anyway, the right have completely ruined political discourse and flooded everything with false equivalences and stupid word and mind games and various red herrings ways sliming out of admitting to what they're actually saying. So that's how we got to this point where you can post actual Nazi propaganda and kind of get away with it. Like, it was taken down, but like, I don't think Trump will actually be removed from office or anyone will be held really accountable. So like, when people say being anti-Antifa makes you fa, that's like not just an empty argument. Like, of course things can mean different to what their labels are, but when you actually look at the tactics and the politics, again, the actual contents, what people are doing, what people are saying, when you actually ignore labels, you do find a repeat of the exact same principles that we see in far-right regimes all throughout history. And you can't just say, oh, the leftists are the real Nazis, when consistently your side has tactics, ideology, and various other artifacts associated with these far-right regimes. So that's it for now. I just wanted to get this out here real quick, so apologies for the crappy quality and all that, but yeah, I do think we need more videos reacting to things like this, just to have little bites out there so the whole narrative doesn't get claimed by the right. And yeah, so I guess that's it. See you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, check out my Patreon if you can, donate to Black Lives Matter related organizations, and bye!